Well, hello and welcome to this week's Sarah Says What It Means to Be in the Moment. I am certainly delighted and grateful for everyone who's tuned in to the previous 11 workshops that I've done. I am working on a few technical things right now, so just give me 1 second. Again, ever so grateful for all the feedback, all the thoughts, the ideas, the encouragement, the support. You guys have been great. The shares. I am not going to be doing any more of these for a little while, but I'm certainly open to the concept, should I come up with another series. But there's 12 of these. There's plenty to watch. If you have questions, comments as you observe these videos, please feel free to just reach out. You can also find these on YouTube. So if you have a smart TV, you can watch them at home on your TV screen. Just Google or search for Sarah's Inc. and you should find them. I think that's it. So let me get the screen sharing going. I am going to do a few other videos, but they're going to be on YouTube only. I'll tell you more about that later. So, okay, so let's get the screen share going. And all right, here we go. So you are here for the last, oh, hey there, Kelly. You're here for the last of the 12-part series on how to retake your personal power. The discussion has been, let me get my notes. The discussion has been pretty much centered around how much personal power we give up by, they do this, they do that, I'm a victim of my environment, whatever. Hey, Lori, it's so good to have you all here. But I want you to live in power. I want you to have a sense that you are way more in control of your life. You really are. And we give up so much of our personal power. And so I've talked about things like emotional intelligence, gratitude, self-care, forgiveness, understanding your mission, your purpose, your value to the world, the difference between being productive and not just busy. Words mean things, compassion, self-compassion, how to live fearlessly, observing without judgment, and the importance of being aware of patterns of behavior, both in yourself and in other people. And so if you haven't watched the other videos, I encourage you to do it. Give me feedback. Let me know what you think. Y'all are valuable to me. I did this for you. I did this, I do this for a living, but a lot of times y'all can't access this kind of training or can't afford it or don't know where to go, don't know who to trust. And I want you all, if you're watching this, I want you to be able to retake your personal power. So that's what this whole series has been about. And I've been grateful to have the time and the means to do it. So, Dink. So the one thing I want to be sure I explain is that I am not a medical doctor, therapist, counselor, psychologist, or psychiatrist. I am a master life coach, and I have some sub-certifications in coaching on happiness and goals and success and career and emotional intelligence and. But it does not make me a professional mental health professional, nor does it make me a medical doctor. So if you are currently under the care of any of those, I want you to continue doing what they recommend, take the medications that they recommend. I don't want you to stop, start, change, alter anything that you're doing because you have been instructed to do so by a professional. Get with them first. If anything comes up, in any of these videos, it is simply my opinion. It's for educational purposes, and I don't want you to do anything without consulting with a mental or physical health professional. All right, now we got that out of the way. So today I'm talking about mindfulness versus mindlessness, and the point of that is being in the moment. We live in a world where we are constantly either in the past or we're in the present. And so to retake your personal power means learning to be in the now. And so I want you to think about this. Uh, we want our lives back. This video that I'm doing today is in September of 2020. And honest to God, where the world is batshit crazy. It was crazy before, but now it is just off the chain. And so we all just want our lives back. And so we're either focused on how things used to be, or we're fearful of what things are going to be, or we're focused on when things get back to normal. And that's called normalcy bias. And it's a coping mechanism where we deny how bad things are. And we say, no, no, it's all fine. And, um, it's really not. And so we're all in the same storm. We're just in different boats. Some people are having a better time of coping, some people are not. But what I see is that so many of us are not in the now. Now, let me just say this. The now can suck big time, but it just depends on where we're looking. And so what this whole workshop is about today is changing your focus. So I just want you to understand, I'm in this storm with you. My work has been impacted. My health has been impacted. I've literally lost friends to COVID. And I've lost friends because of some crazy political stuff. It is sad and crazy. So I don't want you to think I don't know how it feels. I don't know how you feel, but I do know how it feels to be in the middle of this maelstrom of insanity right now. And it doesn't matter which side you're on politically. It doesn't matter what you believe religiously. It doesn't matter, where you're at in a lot of different ways. We're really all in this same storm. But the question is, how are we going to get through it? And so that's what today is about. And so what I want you to think about is, we tend to focus on the past or the present. The past or the future. We don't focus on the present. And it is a coping mechanism of our lizard brain, right? So we're worried about what we've done wrong that's going to come back and bite us, or we're worried about what may happen in the future. And so I want you to think about this. Focusing on the past is typically seated in regret, what we wish we would have done, what we wish would have happened, what we wish we would not have done. A lot of regret. And it is wasted energy. And it is a misfocus of our time and attention. So I want to suggest to you that when you get to regretting your past, that you shift your focus from what is it habit-wise, pattern-wise, that I continue to do that I can change. By way of example, I was really a crappy mom. I was a kid raising kids. I was from an abusive home, and my mother had mental health issues, and my dad was a really bad person. And so I did not have a clue about how to raise my kids. Now, in spite of that, they've all turned out to be decent human beings. But that doesn't mean that I didn't waste years. As I grew, I began to realize what a crappy mom I was. And I spent so much time in regret and beating myself up. And then someone pointed out to me that that was just indulging in self-sympathy, self-pity. I was trying to console myself by regretting what I was, by being so, I was so bad. I feel so bad about what I did. And this person pointed out to me that the best way to overcome remorse and regret is to change for the better. And that kind of hurt, because I thought that by regretting the past, I was paying for it. I was paying my dues for doing a bad thing or saying the thing I shouldn't or whatever. And this person pointed out to me that the best way to regret my past is to change. So I would suggest to you that if there are things in your past that you regret, instead of living back at that time where you said or did something that you wish you hadn't, that you instead say, why did I do that? Did I say that thing because I was emotionally immature? Did I do that thing because I was trying to get revenge? I needed to forgive that person and move on. In my case, it was sheer unadulterated stupidity. And what I try to do now is be a great mom now, be a great grandma now, be a better person in general. The saddest words in the world are too late. You know, I can't go back and change what happened, but I can change now. So then when we focus on the future, and we're typically focused on fear. Oh, how am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to manage the crazy political? What's going to happen about food? What's going to happen about whatever? So we're either living in fear, or we're living in this disproportionate hope where, oh, well, if my candidate wins, everything's going to be fine. If aliens come, then, oh, we'll all be saved. You know, Jesus comes, we'll all be saved. You know, so if you find yourself focusing on the future, then to pull yourself in the now is, okay, I am anxious about these bills. What can I do? Or how can I mitigate, you know, the damage? How can I figure out the funding? What can I sell? What, you know, so sometimes the answer is not what you want, but you're still taking action to control what you can. If it's about fear of things we can't control, you know, I cannot predict what's going to happen with the food chain. I cannot predict what's going to happen with the crazy people rioting and guns and all that. I can't, but I can predict my behavior. I'm going to prepare for those things. I'm going to try and stay out of harm's way. And so when I begin to take control over what I can do, then I am focused on the now. All right. Now, the disproportionate hope, where, oh, if my candidate wins, or if Jesus comes tomorrow, or whatever, these things tend to make us be lazy about what's going to happen today and what can I do today. We've surrendered the power to the person who wins, the political campaigner. We've surrendered the power to the very God who has given us the power to control what we can control. And so I think that it's on us. The onus is on us to be in the now. We only have 2 lives. The second one begins when you realize you only have 1 life, okay? And you are giving up so much power to the past and the future that you find the days and the weeks are flying by and you haven't been in today. And so I just want you to be aware that when your focus is on the past or the future, where it's seated, what's happening. So I also want you to be aware of what I call rehearsing. And I've heard it called, you know, I can't remember where I got the name, but we rehearse. Okay, I want you to think about how many times you catch yourself being in the past, reliving a conversation, wishing you would have said something. Oh, when they said this, I should have said that. Or you're anticipating an argument or an uncomfortable circumstance, and you're rehearsing what you're going to say for that. Now, a small amount of rehearsing for the future, I recommend. If you know you're going to be in an uncomfortable situation, be prepared to be mindful, right? But we get into arguments with people and the event is either over or hasn't happened. I mean, I've done this. We all do it. What we would have said or done, or what we're going to say. Boy, I know they're going to say this thing, and so here's what I'm going to say. We're fighting with them, and they're not even there. And so rehearsing is a way that we're not in the moment. And so I want to give you some really hard and fast activities. I want you to think about what happens when you begin to focus on the now. The first thing that happens when you focus on today is it empowers you to let go of the past. There is not a damn thing you can do about what's happened. Not one. You can say you're sorry, but what you can do that empowers you is to let go and to change your behavior. focusing on the now also enables you to take action to address your fears. I, like many of you, am anxious about who's going to win the election. But let me tell you what I believe more importantly, is it doesn't really matter. I believe that we're in a cycle where it doesn't matter who wins, that things are going to be tumultuous no matter what. And so I can only address the fears of what's going to happen to me directly and what can I do. So we prepare in many ways, but I can take these actions to address the things that I'm anxious about. And I think that we need to also be aware that being anxious or concerned isn't always a bad thing. It isn't, oh, you're living in fear. It is about reasonable concerns. Okay. So being in the moment enables me to let go of the past and change my behavior that I engaged in the past that I regret. And it also enables me to think about what can I do now about the things about which I'm anxious. What positive steps can I take to either avoid these situations that I'm worried about, mitigate the damage of the situations, or prepare for the situations? The third thing is being in the moment provides us with grounding that I think helps us avoid disproportionate hope, where we're just like, oh, if this happens, everything's going to be great, or disproportionate despair, like it's all going to hell and there's nothing we can do about it, right? And so Mary Elizabeth makes a good point. Reasonable is the tricky part of managing our anxieties. The catch here is that we write scripts about what we're afraid of. And many of us who struggle with anxiety tend to write a script for the worst case scenario. And so we do that as a coping mechanism so that we're ready when the worst thing happens. But what ends up happening is that we create a frenzy within ourselves where we have gotten into a habit. It's a loop that we feel safe in, that if we predict the worst thing and we think we're mentally prepared for the worst thing, then we can handle everything else. But that's not what happens. We get in this loop that frenzies us up, that we're just so wound up that we're not really handling anything. Okay, focusing on that now. Okay, so here are some activities. The first thing is, as you're watching this workshop, I just want you to stop for a moment. What are you thinking about? How many of you are actually, and it's okay, there's no right or wrong answers. How many of you are actually here versus, are you thinking about something that you've done that you wish you hadn't? Or are you thinking about the tasks that need to be done when you're done with the workshop? The first step to being in the moment is to become aware of what you're thinking. What happens a lot is that our lizard brain, we're in such a habit of not being aware of our thoughts that they run away, and we're like riding a wild horse. And so I don't know how any of you feel, but I do know that I have to catch myself sometimes riding the wild horse of anxiety. Oh, if this happens, then that happens. And oh, there's this other stuff going on. And how am I going to manage all this? And oh, kids and work. And, it just can get crazy. And as I become aware of my thoughts, then I begin to have a measure of control over them. Like, okay, one thing at a time. So become aware of what you're thinking. Become aware of the scripts you're writing, the patterns of thinking that you've gotten into. And I did a video about patterns. We become addicted to what's comfortable, and patterns, our habits, are hypnosis in action. We think that nothing will change because it's always been this way, when the reality is this is a pattern, a habit that we've not only developed, but we've nurtured it. We've cultivated it. We've fed it like a bad dog under the table, and we just keep giving it food because it's comfortable misery. So it's comfortable misery for us to live like this because we've always done it that way. And change is so difficult. Confidence is so difficult. Being empowered can be scary. But it all has to start with becoming aware of what you're thinking. And so being in the moment demands that we begin to just take a moment to, where is my head right now? What am I doing right now? It is not easy. And so when I began to do this 3 years ago, I would take an hour a day, pick an hour, any hour, to be mindful of what I was thinking. And it was really hard at first because, oh, look, a squirrel. And then we laugh and say, oh, well, I have ADD, but it is a matter of discipline and self-control that has either taken us down the rabbit hole of we can't hold a thought in our head, or, we begin to master our thoughts. I have ADD and ADHD. So again, I don't know how you feel, but I know when I get stressed, I'm like a spring, I'm like a pogo stick with a hyper 3-year-old on it. And it requires a lot of self-discipline to manage my thoughts. And so the habits that we develop when we're not stressed are the ones that will begin to take control when we are stressed. But right now, when we're out of control and our thoughts are everywhere, the more stressed we get, the more frenzied we get. And so what I would encourage you to do is an hour, just take 1 hour, pick 1 hour a day that you are going to be mindful of what you're thinking, and that you will begin to see these habits and patterns that you're into, with your thoughts. Second, stop, drop, and feel. So sometimes I feel like I am spinning like a top and I am going to just fly apart, any minute now. I am just going to fly apart. There's just too much going on. And so I have to take that moment to stop what I'm doing and take a moment to breathe. Watch the video on emotional intelligence. The more stressed we get, the less deep we breathe, the more shallow we breathe. And our bodies do not think that oxygen is important for our brain when we're in fight, flight, freeze, or faint mode. And so we're not thinking clearly. And so when I get frenzied, I have to stop. Okay. What is happening right now? What am I thinking about? And I have to, for me, it's writing things down. I have to say, okay, here's what I'm anxious about work. Here's what I'm anxious. Oh, I'm writing scripts about this thing. Oh, here's this relationship thing that's bothering me. Oh, this thing about my kids. Oh, I've got this client that's, whatever. I have to stop and compartmentalize everything that's going on. Then I have to drop into my thoughts and emotions and observe them without judgment. Perfectly true story. I have several businesses, which in and of themselves is like juggling, razor sharp glass balls. I mean, it's crazy sometimes. One of them is a quilting company. I make custom quilts for people all over the country. So, in LA, they want something for an art show. And here locally, somebody has a bunch of fabric that they inherited and they want a scrap quilt. I made such a quilt recently. And when I picked it up from the quilter, I began to have this panic attack that the client wasn't going to be happy with it because she kept talking about the quilting pattern, not the quilt, but the machine quilting. And I just thought, oh my God, what if she doesn't like it? What if she doesn't like it? And I really worked myself up. I wrote this script about what the client was going to say. And so I had, I was trying to be mindful. And so I had a plan that if she didn't like it, I worked it out with the quilter that, she'd go visit with the quilter. But I had written this entire script, this whole story about what this customer was going to say when she came and picked up the quilt. When she came to pick it up, she was deliriously happy with it, had no problem with the quilting. So in hindsight, I had infused into that particular situation all my stress about other things. I did not follow my own advice. I did not stop and consider observing my anxiety without judgment. And I would have realized that this client was going to be happy, that I was infusing into this situation all my stress about other things. Um, and I was trying to avoid feeling like a failure uh, instead of just addressing issues. Okay, so I'm telling you, I don't always do what I advise, I try. And had I done what I advise, I would not have been in this anxiety situation for almost 2 days. So when you're feeling crazy, just pause and try these 3 steps. Um, so, in conclusion, part of being present and mindful versus mindless is beginning to think about being a witness to your own life instead of um, looking at it in hindsight. Be in the moment right now. So when you get off this workshop and you're in your own life, when you catch yourself being in the past or the future, I want you to come back to, what are you seeing right now? What is in your home right now? What's outside right now? What can you choose to see right now? Not what scripts are you writing, not what are you regretting, not what are you fearful of, but what are you seeing right now? I want you to also think about, what are you smelling? You know, I don't I don't know about you, but sometimes I get triggered by a smell. I'll smell something and it makes me think about something else, and then I'm down the rabbit hole. And so, when I smell things, I have to be aware that sometimes I get triggered by a smell to clean the kitchen when it's really not dirty. It's just the trash that needs to be taken out. I mean, weird stuff like that. And I'm not in the moment because I'm responding like an amoeba in a petri dish to a prompt. So being in the moment, oh, I smell that trash. Oh, that's what that is. I need to take that out versus, oh, I need to get on my hands and knees and scrub the kitchen, right? We do crazy things like that when we're stressed and struggling to be mindful and in the moment. The other thing is, what are you feeling right now? When we feel things, we can tend to accept them as reality. I accepted the reality of my stress about this client not being happy, and it wasn't even real. What I needed to do was to recognize that I was feeling stressed and dig into that. It didn't feel good. And so I was trying to assign something. I was trying to ascribe a reason to it, but I was actually stressed about some other things. And had I addressed that and said, oh, I'm not worried about that, I'm worried about this other thing, I would have been able to retake control and not been subject to a script that I was writing based on stress. And the other thing is, what are you doing right now? Sometimes, think about this, we have been living in a world full of distractions that got cut off. Like, we were crack addicts and we got cut off from most of our distractions back in February, March. We can't go out and eat anymore like we used to. We can't socialize like we used to. We can't be busy shopping and out walking or doing what, fill in the blank, whatever it is you did that distracted you from what was going on in your heart and your mind. And so I think we have to begin to pull in and realize how much we've been buffering our lives. And so become a witness to your own life. Sometimes it feels good and sometimes it doesn't, but the more you do it, the more you will be able to manage and control what it is you are witnessing. If you need specific help on some of these issues, feel free to reach out to me. Thank you. I just want to say thanks. This is a lot of information for me to be spewing out, but I hope that these last 12 workshops have been helpful. And as I said, I may consider doing some in the future, but I've done this because I want you to be able to retake your personal power and live fully in your own life. So again, I'm just grateful for all the support, all the participation, all the shares. And until we get together again, my dear friends, you have been zinced.